Hello and welcome to another update on the Telerad Model 35. Well, have some good news basically to say that the restoration is pretty much coming to an end. I've pretty much just about done the set. Yeah, it's taken a few months and I've sort of spent various nights and several hours on the set. I hate to think how many hours I spent on this thing actually. I hate to think. Probably quite a few. As you TV restorers out there obviously know all too well, you're sort of in the same boat. You're spending hours and hours and hours on these sort of things. It's just been plugging it away at it, sort of, you know, just when time allows and so forth. Right, but first up, the dead bits. I think you guys have seen some of these before. I think in a previous video I showed a whole pile. Well, the pile's kind of grown, as you can see, especially in regards to the solar caps department. Every single one of those is leaky. I've checked them all on my two capacitance bridges, my newly acquired Heathcote IT11 and my Kairitsu one as well. And they both confirm that the caps are definitely leaky. So yeah, how did that one sneak across to there? It must have wanted to stay close to its former component, probably companion. That's right. We'll move it over to here, and all the resistors. Some of these were high, some are okay, but just part of preventive maintenance. I decided to change quite a few, and of course the filter caps. They pretty much go without saying. Now what I managed to do actually is I managed to actually find, I had some new old stock filter caps which basically are identical in every way, basically exactly the same cap, exactly the same values and everything, and I slowly reformed them and they're fine. So yeah, we'll just see how they go. I sort of reformed them over sort of several weeks to slowly reform them, and each section slowly reformed it, and yeah, they came up pretty good. So we'll just see how it goes anyway. I may have mentioned that in the previous video. I'm not too sure now. It's been a few months since I actually it was about July, I think, of last year. June, July is when I first started doing a video diary on this thing. So yeah, so we'll start up here. I'll just move the light a bit closer to the so see what's going on or what I've done. Yeah, pretty much replaced all the components now, as you can see. Wiring the mains fuse, all the components basically being replaced in there. I'll move across to the side over here as well. This is the other side. Again, all the components have been changed there as well. So see them all being changed there. You guys also might notice the different types of components that I've used in this. I've actually got quite a lot of new old stock stuff, so I might as well use those up first before I start going and buying new components. Yeah, just kind of makes sense really. Unless you've got a big bunch of new old stock caps. This is off of a colleague of mine recently too, so I put all those in the drawer. Like I said, these 0.160 volt polyester caps, I think they're all Japanese ones, are perfect. And these green ones too, I've had for several years. I think they're probably Japanese made type of caps, and they're fine too. So kind of made sense to actually use them. Now over here you might notice there's a little wee modification I've done to it, and I'll kind of explain why. There's a couple of, as you know, these things use these sets run those solar these basically used a lot of these in here, 10 mic at 450. Now all of them were leaky, 10+10s. So what I did is I mounted the one here, or basically the original one's there, and I made up this down here because there's no way you'd be able to fit those two 10 mic caps in that space, so close to the power resistors and the vertical section and all that. Just physically there's no room in there. So I've done a slight modification using the tag strip, and there was an existing hole which I just screwed the ground lug onto, and yeah, made up a little thing and ran some wires to the very appropriate places. Okay, no, it's not original, but hey, it works and it's safe, and it's, you know, it's the best I could do really in the situation. There's no way in hell I could have squeezed those in there. Just would look untidy, and you know, could also run the risk of, you know, one of those sort of, you know, there's a bit of heat there, and you know, could have shorted something out or melted something on that capacitor, and you may have damaged the power supply or something. So that's why I decided to do that, and it doesn't look too bad actually either. So it looks really tidy. And again over here, similar thing. Those caps I just showed you, the original ones, there's one there, and there's one under there, and there's another one under there, and one under there. Now again, no way I could have physically wired those types of caps I mean, you know, again in that space. It's just virtually impossible. So there was two 10 plus 10s there and another 10 plus 10 there, came to about 40 mic, and that's what that cap basically replaces. These two 10s replace that 10 in there. The other two 10s, there's one hiding under there, and the other one is part of the audio stage, hiding up under there. So I did manage to actually make them all fit in various places, which was good. So yeah, what can I say? Oh yeah, the cathode bypass cap was completely open circuit. So yeah, the poor old audio station would have been screwing along quite nicely actually, because last time I had it running on a test speaker, it was, I could hear some crackling, and the output valve was stinking hot. So obviously the poor thing was getting probably basically biased. You know, it was really getting a hard time not having the coupling cap there. Would have been really screwing it along quite nicely, upsetting a few things, but it's all been sorted out now, which is good. What's next? Now, I did have a couple of problems with this thing, which I did have to sort out. The first thing was the width. I had varying width. Sort of, you turn it on, and after sort of 10 or 12 minutes, you notice the pitch is starting to stretch at the sides, and sort of like the width would just slowly increase, and of course the boost voltage would also as well, but it would occasionally jump up and down. So started basically, you know, I'd replaced all the capacitors, so I started changing various resistors and substituting these ones here, and you know, double checking all my connections and wiring and everything in here, and everything all seemed fine. You know, it wasn't that much, but it was enough to be annoying, to the point where, you know, and it was just the fact that when it was cold, the width was okay, but as it warmed up, the width would, you know, the picture would stretch out and the boost voltage would climb too. So I think, oh, I'm not happy with that. So I poked and prodded around for a wee bit, and I thought to myself, well, everything checks out okay. I changed the damper tube, the line output valve, the EH rectifier, I changed all those tubes. Nah, ruled it out. Nah, wasn't that at all. Anything I hadn't changed was the width pot, because it was hard run on one end. And I thought, oh, the pots were just drifted with age, you know, as these things do. So I changed the pot, and would you believe it? Bloody fixed it. So yeah, the actual original pot, this sucker here, it actually I think it's meant to be a 2 meg is what the pot is. It read about 1.5, so it actually dropped in value. But obviously voltage and heat, obviously the resistance of the track must have changed, or something was happening within the pot, and it decided to obviously change and of course make the width increase as well. So put the new pot in and it fixed it. So there you go. It's definitely a new one on me. Well, I mean, I've had pots fail before, but not sort of like drift like that. But again, due to the age of the thing, anything's possible. So yeah, what else have I done under here? Tried to do it as neatly as possible. You know, putting the tubing over, you know, this spaghetti wire over various things. I tried to keep it as neat and tidy as possible too. So yeah, just for posterity reasons as well. Yeah, so what else did I do? Wired in a new mains flex going to the on-off switch, which is here. Placed a couple of resistors up on there. That resistor there on the contrast controller drifted, and that one off the 68k to ground off one side of the brightness pot was already about 100, so I changed that as well, just to be on the safe side. Now the tuner. Now what did I find was? Oh yeah, the tuner had a couple of things. First of all, dirty contacts, and I had to lube all that up and grease all the channel mechanism up, all the changing mechanism up and everything. So I did all that, and there was a problem that did have, which I'll get to in a second, and I thought the problem may have been the tuner, but it wasn't. But just well, I did, because when I popped the cover off the tuner, there was a 5.6k resistor which read about 20k. So I naturally changed that, and that 6.8k, the original read about 12. I think that's basically just an HT dropper, because the HT comes in there. Should be just a B plus dropper of some kind. I must feed some various part of the circuit in there. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. Oh, and also replace the screen cable that goes from the output of the tuner to the first IF. The original cable was really thick, and it was all every time I moved this around, it would keep breaking. Had to resolder it. Had to resolder the center. Had to resolder the center wire on all the time, and it was getting quite crusty around there. So I replaced that as well, because that was getting quite annoying. Every time I move it would bloody short and carry on, and yeah, it was just a pain in the backside. Now the other fault that it had, as well, after about half an hour or so, the picture would lose contrast, would get quite washed out. I'm thinking, okay, something's not right here. I noticed the AGC would drop as well. It would. I noticed when I adjusted the AGC as per the instructions, and then after the picture went washed out, and I did it again, I had to readjust the AGC to compensate, and it just wasn't really working. So I basically attacked the tuner first, and that's when I found those two resistors that I thought I actually may have found the problem. No, it wasn't that. So I started looking around here. This is your AGC gate circuit here, and your sync circuit, basically for your horizontal. It's got a line multi-vibrator set for the horizontal drive and oscillator. Everything seemed to be okay there, so I started poking around the over here. You've got your sync separator, your sync amp, DC restoration, and peak detector. The weird thing is, I actually found, this is the weird thing, I actually found by quite accident, I was measuring things with a meter, and my finger accidentally touched that point there, and the picture would all of a sudden, the brightness would increase. I thought, what on earth? I found sort of touching around here, even with my meter probe, would actually give sudden bursts of the contrast would increase. I'm thinking, okay, have I put in a wrong component here? So I went back to the circuit and double checked, because I took like heaps of photos of all the original parts and all the original components that were in place, and checked all the component values and made sure everything was wide and right. Everything seemed to be okay. I measured various places with a scope, and yeah, you could see the contrast definitely dropping, and it was like, well, you could definitely see what was going on. And I'm thinking, well, I ain't got a circuit, I ain't got voltages to sort of I haven't got anything to sort of any voltage references to compare with. I thought, well, okay, it's heating up. As it heats up, it's faulting. So I basically one evening I brought home with me from work a can of freeze and started spraying components around, and nothing happened. So I went over to here, and I sprayed everything around here, and I noticed spraying around this area here, I noticed all of a sudden the picture got brighter, or the contrast came up. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So I narrowed it down, and there's a 25k resistor sitting here, this bugger here. This, for some reason, was temperature and voltage sensitive. Obviously didn't like having voltage across it, and of course there's also your horizontal line drive sync pulse across there as well, sitting on there as well. Can't coming from the horizontal IC, yeah, there was a sync pulse sitting there. So whether it was the frequency and the voltage and the temperature, but that resistor was crook. Spray the resistor, the contrast would increase, the voltage on the voltage too. The voltage on the voltage on it would also come back as well. Obviously, that was that the resistor was breaking down and just pulling the voltage down, but changing the value as it was in circuit. So changed the resistor and bingo, fixed it. So yeah, so two kind of weird problems, both caused by resistances, faulty resistors and resistances. Not makes a change from capacitors doing funny things as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much it really. I haven't really got much else to add. I'm just going to leave it in regards to cleaning up the chassis. I'm just going to leave it pretty much as it is. It's clean enough as it is. So I just hope the thing just continues to behave itself, really. So yeah, I'll clean the controls at once as in the cabinet. So, but yeah, quite a impressive line of bits, really, isn't it? Really, when you look at it, I'll definitely keep all these bits. I'm actually going to put some documentation with the set in a bag, an envelope, and sort of like all my notes that I've taken down and everything, because this TV I think actually probably deserves to be basically, if I ever pass it on, it's got to go to the right people or person or place. It can't just end up in the tip or anything. This is too much. This set's far too rare. It's really a piece of history, really, and it's so unique in its own right. It deserves to be saved in every aspect possible. So yeah. Oh, and while I'm here too, just remember too, while I'm here, this has been my only saving grace. I pulled, this is another Telerad TV. Well, it was one of the many skip burn retrievals I did, basically, while going to and from his place, because after hours his daughter would get someone in to help her clean stuff out. I found this in there. I was a bit annoyed because it's been a wee bit trashed. But yeah, this is the only remaining spares that I've got, which is in some ways actually bloody handy, because I have got some spare parts in there, and if I happen to lose track with my circuit, or if I happen to stuff up somewhere in component wise with that thing, which I didn't need to refer back to this for anything. I think there were a couple of things I took. Oh yeah, I took the width control out of it, so that was definitely handy for that. But I've got a good tuner, so I've got a good tune and everything there, and a couple of controls if one of those should fail. A couple of valves as well. I think because when I went through and tested all the valves, actually there were a couple of dud ones on there, or ones that test really low, and I actually managed to pull them off here. Make a good thing. Now I'm pretty certain, I do recall him telling me, because I know the set came out of his lounge, and I remember seeing it on the floor and thinking, oh, that'll probably stay there. And then the next time I drove past and checked it in, there it was, all smashed. So I grumbled a wee bit, but at least I knew I'd have a complete set of spare parts for this thing. If we can just get this top off here. Oh yes, there we go. There's a flyback sitting in there, but I think the flyback is faulty, because I remember him telling me about he used to watch tennis on this TV. I think it was his main TV thing up until the late 80s, and I remember him telling me the flyback went in it. So yeah, I don't know what the state of that's like. I'll just have to pull it out one day and check it, maybe. Or my one, or the one that ever fails, God forbid, I'll have to put this one on, and hopefully it may be okay. Yeah, looking at the set, serial number 2, that's a 351503. Well, mine, the one on the bench, the one is 1510. So I'm picking, that's probably set number 3, and this is probably set number 15, because I don't think it would have made an awful lot of these. Yeah, just pull it up again. Oopsie daisy. Yeah, just break it some more. That's okay. Yeah, so it's pretty much the guts of this thing. It's actually slightly different too. There's a few different, you know, he's got different. Interesting enough, actually, he's got cardboard formers used on that one there, and here he's actually got plastic or Bakelite formers to wind these coils on. And there are a few subtle changes in there as well. So he's got this horrible little Belling Lee little thermal cutout thing instead of a fuse. Yeah, so there's a few little differences around as well. But the basic, you know, the basic layout of the sensing is pretty much the same. Yeah, so as you can see here, you've got cardboard ones, or I think they feel like cardboard rather than the plastic or Bakelite ones which are used in there. So yeah, okay. Well, I think I've spent long enough rambling on here, so I'll sign off here. And yeah, I will next video or two, or hopefully the second to last video, hopefully I should be making with this, and it should be all back in the cabinet, all going well. So until then, stay tuned and thanks for watching. Cheers.